Well, there are a lot of questions there, and what we got today was attribution, as the intelligence community calls it, where you're attributing these efforts to a particular nation state, but we didn't get a lot of information about the motive and the why and what else officials are seeing. What we got there was a little snippet of analysis from the Director of National Intelligence, as you mentioned, saying that this was designed to hurt President Trump. The problem here with the Iranian issue is that if you play it out logically, and you risk running a deductive fallacy here, essentially what he is potentially saying is that the Iranians knew that they were going to get caught, and then that would then expose this as, you know, the Proud Boys being set up as the victims here, which that's a jump in logic there that, you know, requires a couple steps. So basically we don't know, Don. We don't have a lot of information. I think it is important to note what he did not say. The DNI didn't mention the Russia issue. We know that going back to 2016, the intelligence community had assessed that Russia was working to help President Donald Trump. Here today we had the DNI talking about Iran, saying that the victim here was President Trump, talking also about Russia, but not mentioning that that was potentially designed to hurt Vice President Joe Biden. I will say that what we saw today, Don, in one way is precisely what the intelligence community is expected to do whenever you see an influence operation, because the way to mitigate these types of threats is to inoculate the public. If they're getting these emails, they don't know what they are. It's incumbent upon the intelligence community to inoculate them, to describe what this is, what this isn't. So that part, Josh, I think they did by the book. But the other part is still up to debate. I agree with you 100%. And listen, my skepticism is not for Christopher Wray. He's a straight shooter. It is actually for Radcliffe, because if you looked at the press conference, if you watch it, essentially what they said, you would think they were holding two different press conferences. Wray is saying, you know, your vote is safe. Right? You should feel confident that your vote is going to get counted, even with the mail and blah, blah, blah. And then you have Radcliffe giving a whole other thing that I don't know what it had to do with anything. But my question is, do they need to, and I have to run here, if you can just tell me quickly, do they need to do a press conference? Could they just have put out a press release and have the media give this information and say, you might have gotten these emails, but these emails pay no attention to the emails behind the closet or whatever, behind the curtain? I mean, it just seems like it was just odd. The timing is obviously a question, and the method, and this was at FBI headquarters, which is also, you know, raises questions about putting that FBI good housekeeping stamp of approval on this. I will say that, as you mentioned, Chris Wray's part, Director Wray, that was more the public service announcement. The DNI, Radcliffe, it was more getting somewhat into the weeds. The problem here, and this is why folks are right to be skeptical in this sense, and that is the DNI's history. He's already raised a lot of eyebrows with some of his actions by selectively declassifying information. And so just to circle back quickly to what I was saying earlier, it is right for the intelligence community to inoculate the public, to try to mitigate these threats. But when you have someone out there, a former politician, leading the effort, that's just going to raise questions from the other side about whether this is actually being done above board.
100% what you just said. Thank you, Josh.